So me, I was just looking at the boy and I'm like, where? Do you know what is ahead of you? Yeah. So there were like any hospital visits, the four of us, we will be accompanying you. Don't worry, everything will be okay. So after everything was done, said and done, we went back home with our child. And it was such a long night. I remember we all did not sleep. We were just looking at the boy. I remember at night, I woke up and I went to look for there's that vaccination book.
Yeah.
The one that is recorded when you go for vaccination that monitors the growth of the child. So I looked for that book.
Yeah.
And I had to go through it. I wondered, what did I do? What did I do? Was he given all the vaccinations? Did I miss out something? Did I feed him the wrong food? Did I infect him with cancer? Yani, I was so stressed.
Hello and welcome back to the 360 Perspective podcast with me, Trisha. It is another Thursday, another episode. I really do hope that you guys have been, just encouraged by the several episodes that we've been having out, as well as the live experience content that we also put out. And today's conversation is about navigating grief. Have you been in that season, particularly as a believer, where you've believed God for a healing of a loved one, or you've believed God for a miracle, for a loved one, but it just never came through and you had to go through a season of grief? That is our conversation for today. As a believer, how do you navigate grief? And to have a conversation, it is a friend of mine from church, someone that I knew, interestingly enough, I didn't know her in person, but I knew her through the prayers that we put out for her son, who unfortunately passed on. And she'll get to share the story with us today. But ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Jackie to this conversation. Karibu sana, Jackie.
Asante sana.
Yes, so I'll allow you to introduce yourself first, and then now we can go on with the conversation.
Okay, my name is Jackie Wangeshi MUNGAI, and I'm born again. I'm a wife. I'm a mother of 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls. The late Simon Minor, Benjamin, Joy, and Shiro. And apart from that, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, and I'm a believer. I serve in ICC in the next gen ministry in the special group called Sensory. Yeah. And apart from that, I work as a marketer. I do branding. I own a company called Jacket Stationers. Yep. Yeah.
Karibu sana, Jackie.
Thank you so much, Trisha.
Yeah, it's such an honor to have you. And I think just talking about this journey of grief, it's such a sensitive one. And I feel like someone has to be ready to talk about it, and it's such a privilege and an honor to have you here. Okay. And as I was saying earlier on, I think I came to know you, or at least hear about you during that time. How many years has it been now?
Around 5 years, from 2018.
2018.
It was from 2017 and part of 2018, like half of 2018.
Yeah, and I think it was 2018 when like the church really rallied around praying for your son, praying for healing. And I remember just being part of the body of Christ that were really contending and believing God for a miracle, and just knowing, God, Yani, you got to do something about this. You got to do something about this baby. Yeah. And we really prayed for months and months and months. Yeah. And that is how later on I came to find out that, oh, this is the mom, Yeah. And so I'd love for you to just share with us your journey of not just grief, but what was that journey like? Yes.
Yeah, it's such a privilege. I've really waited for this day.
Yeah.
And I've really waited to one day talk about Simon, because to me, sitting here and talking about Simon, it shows that I'm healing. I've taken a step of healing, because it was such a hard journey Yeah, so as I've said, my name is Jackie and I'm married to John MUNGAI. He's your colleague. Yeah?
Yes, colleague at work. Yes,
he's your colleague at work. Yeah, and we met in 2014. Sorry, we were both ushers, and from there, the rest is history.
Hey, things fact. You guys are celebrating how many years anniversary this year?
9 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
9 beautiful years.
9 beautiful years, yeah. Yep. So we met ushering and things happened and we fell in love. Our wedding was on 20th of June 2015. Yeah, and from there, God blessed us with a baby. I got a baby right after that in 2016 around April. It was around April 6th of April 2016. That is when we were blessed with baby Simon. And baby Simon was a very healthy baby and he grew like any other child. Yeah, he was our firstborn baby and we loved him so much. Personally, I'm a lastborn in my family. So baby Simon was a baby. He was everybody's baby. From my parents to my big sisters he had some favor. Everybody liked him, even in church. Everybody loved him. Yeah, he was feeding well. And then right after, when Simon was about 6 months, I realized that I was pregnant. Yeah. So what happened? When Simon was 10 months and I was changing his diapers, I realized that he had some problem with his buttocks behind, yeah. So I saw like a black line and I thought ni diapers zilikuwa zinamuaffect. So you see, like the way you are a first time mom and you are not so sure which is the right diaper to use. So I consulted my friends and my sisters. I have sisters who maybe, I was this mom who was very, very, I was not so sure of myself. So I was calling everything. Hey, sasa, hey, umtoi ako aje. Apana umtoto, sijui inaangalia na change. And I can see like he has some problems. So I was told that one, these diapers nowadays, there are so many and they all have like okay, they all have some effects on different children. So you do this, whatever you are using, just try and use another one. So there are several brands. So I changed and kuangalia, he was like becoming worse. And then one day I realized that he had a swelling. And I called the dad and I was like, hey, what is this? So we went to hospital immediately. I think I was going to work. Was the swelling still at the back or? Yeah, at the back. Yeah, at the buttocks. So it's like the buttocks were unfolding. Sorry to use the word, yeah. It was unfolding. So we thought maybe ni boil. And we went to the hospital. And that doctor said it's a boil. And we were given a lot of antibiotics. So we went home and we realized that whatever it was not clearing. It was becoming like big. So we had to consult and we went to a hospital. So by the time we went to Nairobi West and they confirmed that he had a growth. And by the time he was confirming the growth was visible, it was so big. He was not able to sit down. Wow. Yeah. But that child, the one thing about him, he could not like sit down. He was like 7 months there. But he could not sit. Alikuwa nakalia miguu. But I could, the way you are a first time mom and there are things that you don't notice so much. So that is when I realized, by the way, this child, I've never seen him like sitting down. And it's a time when maybe ukimshika, he's becoming like uncomfortable, So he had a problem. Yeah. So from there we went to, so now that is when the journey started. The long journey, because now we went to hospital and like a month and a half now, that is now the tumor had become very big. It was visible, it was uncomfortable, and it was worrying. Yeah.
So when you went to Nairobi West, that's when he was there. They just said it's a growth. They didn't say it's cancerous or anything.
No,
they just
said it's a growth because they did an ultrasound. Is it ultrasound? Yeah, ultrasound. And then they said that it's a growth. So we were told to go for further test. So we went to Kijabe, and that is when the journey started. Now when we went there, they just told us like this is something that happens.
Yeah.
And we were given like a statistics, like it happens, it's a condition that happens, that out of like it's a very rare condition. It's a very rare condition, and it happens to like out of like 5,000, it happens like to 5 kids. And out of those 5 kids, like it rarely happens to a baby boy, a female child. And out of that, it's not cancerous, it's never cancerous. So we were told that it's something that you just need to go to, it's something that has to be operated on, and that's it. So we went, he was booked for a surgery, and it happened. It happened
to remove the growth.
To remove the growth.
Yes.
But you are told that all growths, they have to go through biopsy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once they removed it, that's when they would test.
Now that is when they will test. Yeah, that is not what happens. So we went, we were given, and mind you, all that, when all this was happening, I was pregnant with this other boy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we went to the hospital, he was operated on, and it was those ones of, it's an operation, and that's it. Hey, so after like a week from the surgery, I was called. I saw a phone call from the hospital. I remember I was in Bellevue, I was in a matatu. And I had to alight because I was so shaken. So you were told that anyway, what you need to do.
Was your son still in hospital, or had he been discharged?
We had been discharged, and now life had come back to normal. It was after 1 week.
Okay.
Yeah. So I even had left him with the house girl, and now I had gone now to do my shughlis in town. Yeah. So what happened now? So I was called back to hospital. So I called my husband. I was like, you know what? We've been told to go back to hospital. He was like, why?
With your son? Or just the two of you?
With or without my son.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you've been told you need to show up at the hospital.
Need to show up. Okay. So we were like, because Kijabe is far, and he needed like a review.
Yeah.
So we were like, anyway, we will go with him.
Yeah.
But now when my sister had, I called my sister, and she was like, no, what will happen? I'll take you guys. Because they had seen what had happened. So even them, they were a bit uncomfortable. Yeah. So to make the long story short, we went back to hospital, and it was a very long day. Because it's like most of the nurses, the doctors knew. And they had seen that I was expectant, and now I had like a small baby, and they were breaking this very sad news to us.
From the tests?
From the test, yeah.
Of the growth of the
growth, yeah. Wow.
So what did they say?
So what happened on that day? Now I was with my husband and my sister, and I was pregnant. So and the doctor saw me. They were like, no, we need to talk to this lady. Who is she? I was like, she's my sister. We need to talk to the lady and to your hubby. So I was told, you just relax.
Yeah.
So they got into a room. And then when they were coming out, I saw that my sister's eyes were red. She had really cried, and they took long. And I was like, I was a bit uneasy because I was wondering, Kwani, what are they talking about? Yeah. But deep down inside me, I had a feeling that things were not right. There was something that was very serious. Yeah. But they were worried because you see now you're dealing with a pregnant woman. Yeah. And I had issues with BP.
Wow. So they had to be sensitive. So they couldn't break the news to you.
Yeah. So they came. So I was like, meambuaje. They didn't want to tell me. They were like, oh, tumeambiwa tu aski poa, but what you are going to do, we've been told to see another doctor for a booking. So when we had stayed there for like a whole day and we were tired. Yeah, so it was like evening-ish there. So they went. They were still like preventing me from accessing like the doctor, going with them to hear what the doctor. So they were like, "Apana, let us go with the baby, but you just relax there." So I was wondering, Kwani, what is happening? Where am I being told to just? Why are they keeping me off? I'm the mom. I'm the one who knows what is happening to the baby. But at that time, this baby was not well. Yeah. He was not well.
That was a week after surgery. And when you went back to hospital with him?
We went back to hospital. And in fact, I was still taking him for review. But also, apart from now this review, I was still taking him back because he had some fever, some crazy fever, vomiting. I had realized that his stomach had started like swelling. So I was wondering, I'm the one who needs to be there to explain to the doctor what I've seen, but they're telling me to just relax. So I was a bit stubborn, but I was like, okay. So my big sister is a bit harsh. She was like, we buka hapo, tumalizane na hizi vitu, tuna stress. So I was wondered, so are you people more stressed than I am? So but I just let it. So what happened? We finished, and now from Kijabe, my hubby wanted to drive. My sister was like, apana, you, because he was so stressed. And I know him, I could look at him and I could tell that
he's not okay.
Yeah, it's not okay. Because even his eyes were red. He was holding the baby, looking at him, holding him.
Yeah.
So I was like, Kwani, what is happening?
Yeah.
And okay, so I was like, okay, sawa. So we got into this car. And mind you, now my sister is a very she likes talking, entertaining people. So the journey from Kijabe to the hospital and going, we were talking and laughing. I think it was during that elections past during that so we had so much stories, yeah. And from Kijabe to town, ilikuwa tu story. But I realized that when coming back, they are all quiet. And when we got into that vehicle, akawambia, pana, no, let me drive. You just hold the baby. So we came back home.
Who drove your sister now?
My sister drove us back.
Okay.
But to my surprise, when we were living in Imara, somewhere in Maziwa. And our cousins, Pastor Mungai and Pastor Eve, were also living around Imara. And even my sister was living in Imara. But my sister and Wakina Pastor were living in the same direction, but us, we were living in the opposite direction. But I realized that instead of we coming to our house, we went to my sister's place. And then when we got there, we found the pastors, Pastor Eve and Pastor Mungai, and my big sister. And I realized that their eyes were so red, it's like they had really cried. Pastor Eve and my sis. So I was wondering. And then I saw them talking. So it's kind of, they were asking, have you told her? I saw them. So they sat me down and they broke the bad news to me. They said that Simon has cancer. Where? At that time I was I was shocked. And I didn't understand. Because I thought cancer, it's for an adult, a child that have just given birth. I've been so careful to feed him. So we talked, and they were very supportive. They were like, one thing about you, Wangeshi and John, we are here. Anything you need, anything you require, we are here. So don't you worry, we are going to walk the journey. So me, I was just looking at the boy and I'm like, where? Do you know what is ahead of you? Yeah. So they were like, any hospital visits, the four of us, we will be accompanying you. don't worry, everything will be okay. So after everything was done, said and done, he went back home with our child.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a long night. I remember we all did not sleep. We were just looking at the boy. I remember at night, I woke up and I went to look for there's that vaccination book.
Yeah.
The one that is recorded when you go for vaccination, that monitors the growth of the child. So I looked for that book.
Yeah.
And I had to go through it. I wondered, what did I do? What did I do? Was he given all the vaccinations? Did I miss out something? Did I feed him the wrong food? Did I infect him with cancer? Yani, I was so stressed. I remember wondering and thinking, you see now, with firstborns, you are very, very, very careful with what you are feeding them. Because you are winning and you are like, you have these groups of first-time mothers and you are chatting and you are asking, what did you feed? So with feeding, I was sure that I have not fed him with something that was not right. You get?
Yeah.
You get what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And then I was wondering, is it that I have cancer and I've infected him? Because first of all, when we got home, we sat down and we asked each other, wewe kwenyu kuna watu wako na cancer? Miju kwetu hakuna. Do you people have like a lineage? Because they say that maybe once you have like hereditary, yeah. So my hubby was like, it's only my grandmother who had it, and she was the first one. And me, I was like, yeah, I had an auntie Kitambo who had throat cancer. So I wondered, yani, am I the first? Am I beginning the? Yeah.
Wow.
So it was so hard now when we are both of us now.
And
I'm telling you, Trisha, that time, it was not easy even to pray. Yeah. Because I remember waking up, looking for that book, checking, wondering, looking at myself in the mirror, checking. You see the way you were told that breast cancer, what you do.
Yeah.
I was wondering, ama niko na cancer hii. How can a child be born with cancer? Because the statistics that you were told, they were very discouraging. And I really had to ask seriously. It really had to be me to carry that child. These statistics were being told that out of 1 million, they are narrowing it down. Out of 1 million, sijui 100, out of 100, 20, out of 20. Yani they wali narrow out, and then they were like, yani out of all that, it's me who had to carry that child. And then I was looking at him, he's asleep, he's so innocent. So I was like, well, unajua ni nini? Iko mbele yako. So I remember crying. And I remember the first person I remembered to talk to was my earthly dad. So I called my dad. He was like, hey, Wangeshi, we've heard. And tomorrow, very early in the morning, your mom and I will be there so that we can discuss this story. So true, they came, and to make the long story short, Simon became very sick.
Yeah.
Very sick, and he had to be admitted in hospital. And that time I was pregnant, very pregnant. You can imagine you're pregnant and you're in hospital. You are eating those food. You are sleeping in that tiny mattress. Yeah.
Wow, that must have been heavy.
It was so heavy, but my husband was there. Yeah, because I remember he was telling me that, apana, ini mzigo yetu, tutabeba. And he was like, there's this scripture of when there was that story when Jesus healed a man, and it was and the people had to carry the man, and they had to break the roof, and they had to drop the man, and because of their faith, that man didn't have faith, you remember, but because of their faith, dropping that man kwa roof akamteremsha, Jesus healed the sick because of their faith. So my hubby was like, you know what, our faith is going to heal this boy. We know that cancer, they say that, whatever they will say, us as the parents, we are going to have very strong faith, and you are going to stand for him. We are going to pray. For me, I was not even praying. You're going to pray, and you're going to believe God that is going to heal this boy. So that was the story. So he went to hospital, and he was very, very sick.
And I think just to pause there for a minute and just echo your words, and just to say, I think it's very, very important, ladies or gentlemen, make sure you get married to the right person, because I think, as you have shared, there's so much that comes in the place of marriage and in just the journey of marriage, that if you're not married to the right person, to a godly person, you might be fighting that battle alone. So just make sure that if you are in the waiting period, make sure that you pray and ask God to send you a godly man who you can journey through life, through the highs and the lows together. But yes, you can continue.
Okay, where was I? So he got sick. He was, that time, he became sick. And the most discouraging thing was not even the hospital were telling us that this is the smallest cancer case that we have seen. We have never handled such a case. So I was like, God, si wish hata angekuwa tu mkubwa kidogo.
Did they say which type of cancer it was?
They were calling it a teratoma. But now what happened, when they were operating on him, it got spread kwa pelvic bone.
Oh, when they were removing it.
When they were removing, Yeah. So by the time he was even starting that chemo, ilikuwa imespread to stage 4. Yeah. And he was very sick. And unfortunately, it's not someone who can tell you, Mami naumwa na hapa. So it was you to figure out. Yeah. So maybe unamshika na scream. So you're like, hapa kwani nimeshika wapi? You get it?
Wow, that's tough.
He became so sick. We were hospitalized for a very long time.
Just going through the chemo.
Not even starting the chemo. Yeah. Because they had to stabilize him before starting now the chemo. And now, for your information, now my pregnancy is advancing, So what happened, the doctors were like, now you, wherever you had booked your clinic, just change. Everything will be done here. Because from the look of things, we need also to monitor you.
Wow.
We need to monitor. And they were very good. They were like, in case of anything, just let us know.
Which hospital?
Kijabe Hospital.
Kijabe.
Yeah. But he was in the children's section called Bethany Kids. It's a very good hospital. Very friendly nurses. So the head nurse was like, you know what? Now you, we also need to monitor you. In case every evening, be going for blood pressure checks. And in case we find like there's a problem, now you'll come to the ward. So that was the situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it happened, and the day came when I was going to give birth to my baby. Now that is now when Simon was starting chemotherapy.
Wow.
So I had to move from that ward to the maternity ward.
Wait, okay.
Yeah. But now I think I was even in safe hands, because they were asking me every time, are you fine? Are you okay? Because now even him, he had to move from the general ward to the HDU. Yeah. I thank God for the church, ICC, because they were really there for us. They were visiting us like all the time. By that time, I was an usher. And I had this group of friends who were really holding me. Because I remember like every Sunday, when they finished ushering, they were coming to the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah. They were all coming to the hospital to check on us. And they were very good, because when they come, they were coming with goodies. I remember there's a time they came and the whole ward, they gave everybody something. If it's a melon. By the way, there's another life in hospital.
Yeah.
Of unity. and love.
Yeah.
You are from wherever you are united there. And whatever you get, be it a big melon, you'll cut slices. All the kids that are sick, itabaki, parents. There's someone there who have never seen yogurt. So you come with like a kibuyu. There people are not coming with like 2 boxes. It's kibuyu, you come with it, look for cups, we
distribute.
All of us distribute. And now they were seeing the church, they were like, watu wa kanisa ndio wamekuja. It's Sunday, we eat everything. So at least now that one was like on another side. Yeah, so they came and Simon, chemotherapy, he started. And now my husband now had to be the one taking care of him. And now see now me, I'm here. Baby came. Expectant. Now the baby came.
So the baby came when Simon was still undergoing chemo.
Yeah.
So you delivered.
So I delivered. And I remember
a baby girl?
Baby boy.
A baby boy.
Benjamin, he's 7 years now. I remember that time, they had even told me that they were not going to start chemo on him because he was too sick and he was too small. So I cried. I told them, apana, wacheni akufe akifanywa. Let us just try our best. I would feel bad that there was that option of chemotherapy and we didn't.
Didn't try.
We didn't try. So I remember before I went for maternity, I got into that ward and I saw that chemotherapy. That drug imekunjwa na karatasi ya black. Anawekwa to drop, anawekwa akitoa sweat. The more it drops, sweat.
And that's a baby.
That's a baby. So I remember calling a friend of mine, may she rest in peace. She passed on. She had cancer. So I was like, ebu niambie chemotherapy ni nini? So akaanza, nani anafanywa chemotherapy? I was like, my son. How old? I was like, yeah, she disconnected. So she was calling me, akaniambia, wow, that's a very dangerous, nini. So she tried to explain. Because you know when you hear about chemotherapy, you don't know whether it's a drug, unapatiwa na kijiko. But that one is very, very dangerous. I wouldn't even wish for my worst enemy to go through whatever I saw. Kwanza now when he was starting off. Yeah.
Wow.
So to make the very long story short, I went home with baby and my hubby remained with Simon. And then now after even that chemotherapy, complication arose. So he stayed in hospital for a very long time.
Wow.
That time he was there for like 3 months and a half.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was so painful to leave him there.
Wow. So you went through maternity, delivered your baby. Were you discharged to go home or did you have to stay with your newborn baby?
I stayed with my newborn baby. Like you see now, like for the like 3 days. But now you see now I had to go home with the baby.
Yeah.
And leave now these other people.
Wow.
We had locked our house and all of us had gone to the hospital.
Wow.
Because you see now I was heavily pregnant and John had to be there. There are things that I could not do. So John had to rent like a house there.
Wow.
Like a hostel.
Wow. Wow.
Because when he comes, at least I take a nap, I sleep. Because you were not sleeping. He was so sick and I had to hold him. The whole night. Yeah. So what happened? John anaenda anakuja asubuhi and then me asubuhi I go to sleep. I go and take a rest, you get it? So I really needed him there. So I had to leave him there. I went home now with my bundle of joy. And this bundle of joy, mind you now, I had not shopped.
Wow.
Yeah. But thank God for friends.
And community.
They went to Gikomba. Those ushers, those girls, they went, they shopped everything, they washed.
Wow.
They had diapers. So me when I went home, I found everything
for
the baby.
Wow.
Yeah. So life continued. And then they came home after like a week. But now unfortunately he got sick again and they had to go back. So after 3 weeks, I had to have a conversation with the newborn. I told him, najua nini wewe ni mdogo. But brother ako ni mgonjwa. Like my sisters came, they were like, now we had to release John to go back to work because you also need his job. So he came back. So he was there, and my sister came. He was like, no, this baby, this newborn, my sister had to take care of him. And then I had to go to hospital.
Yeah.
So I had to have a conversation with Benjamin.
Yeah.
When ni mdogo, but your brother is sick. So let me go back to hospital. So I went back to hospital, and my sister took care of the newborn baby. And thank God for church and my friends. Naan ilikuwa mingi sana. They bought for him naan. And he grew like that. So I was coming, namchukua. So he had to go through chemo. Yeah. And now the trend was I go to the hospital for 3 weeks. And these 3 weeks might extend because he's a baby. Chemotherapy na mo affect. Maybe 3 weeks he gets chemo, he becomes sick, infections. So I'm there with him. These are the babies na the river. So John anatoka Jombio at river kwenda kuona mtoto. So it was such a journey.
Wow.
Yeah. So what happened, to make the long story short, kamalizana na hiyo session ya chemo. We got some good news that he was well. After now the sessions of chemo, there were several. We were told that he's well. He's cancer free. We celebrated life back to normal. I started looking for a job. Nini. But after a while, relapse.
Wow. How long?
Hey, mpaka alimea nywele, mpaka akapigwa mapicha.
Wow.
He started now his life. He had a brother. We were home as a family now. I'm cooking for my... There are things that you don't take for granted. Being in the evening, at home, cooking for your family. Me, I had stayed in hospital for so long, I had even forgotten now that life of in the evening, you are a family, you are seated, you are praying, you are... So me, that life was like, because I'm in the hospital, I smell myself, nanuka hospitali. I cannot make my hair. I'm looking at myself. I'm not beautiful anymore. Yeah, you are just there with your baby. But I was like, this is life. I would have done anything for him, you know. So even those ones were non-issues. Being there for so long, eating those food, being with nurses. But those nurses, now we were buddies. Because we had stayed there for so long. He knew them. The first words he was said was, Akata was doctor.
Wow.
Not even mommy.
Wow.
Akata.
Wow.
You get? So it was just like a life we had embraced. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, okay. So it happened that... But the most painful thing was, so you are like a group. We became like a family. We were in isolation now. Because now these kids were not supposed to mix with these other ones. Because their immunity is compromised. Because of chemo, their immunity is so down. So when they mix with those other kids in the ward, watawekana magonjwa. So these ones, ours were isolated. So in the beginning, when you hear isolation, you are like, kwani what is happening?
That was before COVID.
It was before COVID. No, there
before
was no
isolation,
story of
yes.
isolation and mask. So when the nurses are coming, they're coming with mask, and you're like, gosh, kwani what's up, you know? So now these kids, we are here, we are together. Now we have bonded.
Your family?
Your family.
At home?
Yeah, in the ward.
Oh, in the ward.
In the ward, yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about now the ward life. Unfortunately, now they started dying.
Who?
The kids. The
the ones.
kids.
Oh, yeah,
those ones.
yeah. In the HDU. Was it HDU or just a special ward?
Special ward, yeah.
Special ward for the cancer kids.
Cancer kids, you come, you bond, you like these kids. And they started like one by one going. So it was very hard. But now as we had like something to celebrate, ours has toboard, tunaenda home, nini. Yeah, and then it happened that ikarudi. And now that one, when it came back, now it was crazy.
And he relapse,
yeah. Because he was getting a drug 24 hours for 5 days. So you are there with him. And now you see, now he had grown. He's a boy. He wants to play. He has his toys. Now convincing him that he will stay in the bed for 24 hours with that drug, it was so hard. So it happened, but those 5 days hakuwa atanamaliza. 2 days inamwangusha.
Wow.
Yeah, because it was a very strong drug. Still ilikuwa inaitwa second line, whatever, medication. Because you see now with a relapse, they treat it differently. It's like stubborn. It has come back. So ni dose double.
Wow.
Yeah. So I remember, let me take you back. I remember now when one day I was washing him. Namwagilia maji kichwa, nywele yote ikatoka.
Wow.
Now this is demonic.
Wow.
And I really cried. Yeah. So it happened. Relapse ikakuja and it was hard. Nini. So time came. He became so sick. His friends died.
The ward.
The ward, yeah.
Also, so you guys had to go back to the ward?
We had to go back to the ward. After sasa now
during the relapse?
Yeah, relapse. Now you have to go, and now you have to go and stay there for longer.
Wow.
Yeah, longer. And sasa by the way akishafanywa, my infections inakuja. Zikikuja sasa inabidi you are there longer. I remember there's a time I stayed for like 2 months. And now this other boy had now begun to become now big.
Your second born?
My second born. That boy, me and him, when he was growing up, by the way, he didn't even, by the way, this other one was breastfeeding. Yeah.
The second born?
The first born.
Oh, the first born.
Yeah. I was breastfeeding 2 boys. But no, because I was not around, the second born had to stop.
Yeah.
Akawachia brother.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he really sacrificed. Yeah.
Wow. Bless
so
him.
It's not like I by the way, we did not like bond so much with him.
I
he
can
bonded
imagine.
with my sister. Yeah. The family. And also the dad. But me, we were like, because I was not
the
there.
Sacrifice.
Yeah, the sacrifice. Yeah, so what happened? So after that, he became sick, what. Kafika mahali, he was walking, fell down. Afterwards, he paralyzed. Wow. He was not able to move. And he could not understand why he's not able to stand and run.
Wow.
And that time, my sister was like recording. Anaanguka. Akatry. Akaanguka, akatry tena. Akaanguka, so that was it. He stopped walking.
Wow.
And now when he stopped, now they thought this is now when the brother was like trying to stand. So he could not understand why this one is standing. And he paralyzed. So I was just carrying him.
But then he was old?
But then now he was like 2 months, 2 evil.
Yeah. 2 years, 2 months.
2 years, yeah. So it was a very long journey. Yeah. So akaparalyzed nini. And it was very hard. It was very heartbreaking. When him, I was just lying him, turn. So we had to look for a special seat. He loved cartoons, he loved music. So nilikuwa namtana na watch tu cartoon yake. We got to a point now the hospital were like, you know what, chemotherapy is not working. So this is palliative story. Go home.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. But at least they told us in a very friendly, nice, way. Just couple of you go home, take videos, take photos, spend time, Yeah. So that was the story. Time came, and he rested.
Wow. At home, or did you have to take him to hospital?
It was in palliative care. It was
at home. The palliative care was being done at home.
No. We had to look for it was a very. He became very sick. We took him to hospital. They were like, no, take him back home. Yeah. Take him back home. But something happened. When you talk of marriage, we got to a point and we sat down with my husband. I remember we were in a ward. And he was sitting, alikuwa amekaa kwa kitanda. He was like, you know what? This thing is not going to shake 2 things. It's not going to shake our faith. It's not going to shake our marriage. Although we are like, we have parted ways. And we had realized that whenever we meet, we are not talking about us. We're talking about the situation that we're handling. Daktari amesema nini? Mtoto wako aje? He's not asking uko aje. I'm not asking him uko aje. And when he's not calling, I'm like, kwa nini ukol kuuliza mtoto wako aje?
Wow.
So we got to a point you are like, it's not going to affect our faith. It's not going to affect our marriage. So
Very
we
important.
tried to make like a small heaven. I remember there's a time it was my birthday. And he came with chips, toothpicks, chicken, and tomato sauce.
Oh.
And we sat down, we ate. We were like, hey, happy birthday, thank you. So we were like, in this situation, we are going to be there for each other. And I remember we had our anniversary and we were home. That time we were not in the ward. And we were not even remembering.
Wow.
But our friends were. I remember Pastor Jemima and the ushers, they changad. We went to Eka. She said that she wants to meet me. So I was like, gosh, kwani nimekosea. Nataka kunimit kuniambia nini. So she was like, you just come with John. And then they had talked to my sister to be home to take care of Simon. So I remember we went to Eka and I'm calling her. Pasi kwani uko wapi na tumefika? She was like, hapana, mi sikuji. Just have a good time.
A planned surprise.
So that was it. And now there's a time, during Simon's last days, I remember the church organized us for a getaway in Lukenya. Even him. So we carried that time,
including
he was so paralyzed.
Simon. Wow.
So we carried him there. Then he was like, he didn't understand what was happening, but at least he had like a feeling of getting out of the house. He was not in the house. He was not in the ward.
Yeah,
he was in
a different environment.
And then after that, he came and he died. He went to be with the Lord. So that time when I remember one weekend, we were in Kijabe. And now they were like, we needed to go for palliative. And I remember one morning, he was so swollen. And I had held him the whole night. So wezi mweka kwa kitanda. So I was just holding him like this. And early morning, I saw a phone call. It was Pastor Julius Wainaina. He called me and he talked to me. He was like, Wangeshi, there's a permanent healing. Yeah, there's a place where there's no more pain. So I was like, what? He was like, yeah. You know what we need to do? We need to release this boy. He's in so much pain. And then the dad came. He looked at him. The first time I saw him break down, he was like, unaona mtoto anasafa. Imagine, I think we are holding. We need now to release him. So I was like, the way we've been praying with this guy. When he what's up? And he was in tears. He was like, hapana, we need now to let go.
Yeah.
My dad came, told me the same thing. My prayer group in Shags, there are some girls that we were in the same Sunday school. Now we are women. We have a prayer group. They came and they were like, you know what? We need to release this boy. So that weekend, I was at peace. I told God, let your will be done. So there was that particular night. He was really suffering. He was not able to breathe. He's struggling. And I told God, you know what, God? When you take this child, I will not complain. And I will not say that you don't love me. Because I know that all works for good. I want him now to rest. I slept a bit and I woke up and he was gone.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to call people. Yeah, so that was the story.
Wow.
And that was heavy.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Wow.
And to sit down and talk about it, I thank God because I've seen that God has taken me through healing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm still healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Because I was going to ask, like, what did the grief grieving journey look like after his loss, or was it something that you had started preparing yourself prior to his passing on?
Okay, what I would say is that when I told God to take him, when even the dad came and said, release him, nini, those were just words. When someone passes on and it dawns, because when he died, I just looked at him. I told him, you know what, boy, we have done our best. I had to sacrifice. I gave birth to your brother and I had to give him away. Mother forgetting a sucking child. Yeah. I had to. So I was like, we have done our best. But one thing about grieving, it's so painful. At that time now, when it dawns, because a time comes when you bury and everybody goes, and now you are a family.
The two of you.
The two of you, plus the boy, your son. And I was used to feeding two, I'm feeding one. I have so many diapers, just for one. I have his clothes. I have his birthdays. Yeah. Because that day is a very hard day. Because you're like, hey, it's a birthday. Whatever.
Yeah.
So when it dawns on you and you start navigating, it's not easy. Because personally, I was dealing with pain. I was not understanding how God gave him to me. And then he got cancer. By the way, now I was like, this is not asthma. This is not pneumonia.
Yeah.
This is a very heavy disease. It's a very painful disease. I remember there's a time I woke up I was even asleep, because now when he's going through chemotherapy 24 hours, you're just looking at that clock. 12, 1. Usiku inaingia. It clock. So I looked at him. It was around 2 a.m. And I was like, God, the world is asleep. Everybody is asleep. Apart from me, Simon. And the dad, of course, wherever he is, his body is there, but his mind and heart is in the world. So nikauliza God, kwani kuna mahali tuligwaruzana? Me and you kuna mahali God tulikwa. Because God, I've been serving you. I've loved you. I've been walking in your ways. And the whole world is asleep. And I'm looking at my child with cancer, going through chemotherapy. I'm telling you, that session, that relapse, I was, his breath was making me diarrhea.
Wow.
Washing his clothes, mikono zangu zilikuwa zimetoka ngozi because of that chemo. So it was not a joke. So I was looking at him and I'm like, God. Yani, everybody, all the children. And then there's another time I looked at him. I left him in the coach, paralyzed. I'm looking at other children riding bikes, running. Na seriously, wangu amelala hapo. Haezi tembea, kona cancer. So that was there. So when all had been said and done, he's dead, he's been buried. Now I started thinking about all that. And I was very bitter. I was very bitter with God. I was going to church, but I was not listening to whatever the pastor is saying. In fact, I was just going, my body is there and I am feeling so bitter. And there's something that I would want to tell Christians not to be doing. When someone has gone through loss, don't tell them to mourn like Christians. Simply because you're not in their shoe. Yeah. There are things that people should not do.
Because I think I was going to ask that, how can we as believers rally around someone who is undergoing grief and loss?
I think just being there. Yeah. Have you ever been told that the best thing when you go to a place where they are mourning, it's better to be quiet and to pray for that particular family that maybe talk, because maybe you might say something that maybe can because like now someone has lost a child and you're telling them hapana usijali utapata mwingine.
That's a common one, by the way.
That's a common one.
Yeah.
Mtoto tu mtoto si ni mtoto utapata si mimi niko na wengine because after that did I get there? After that I was blessed with some 2 beautiful girls. Yeah, so I'm a mother of 4. You see now that time came and God blessed me with children and I'm very grateful. But at that time ukiniambia usijali utapata mwingine that is, it's very, by the way you are very right. But it's not a sentence for that time.
Yeah.
Saying that all things works for good. Yeah, it does, but don't come and tell someone who is going through that all things works for good.
Yeah.
Apana.
Yeah. At the moment it's bad. Yeah, I'll play it later, but for now things are bad. Things are thick. And I think that's because I realize a lot of times, even as believers, we never know how to support someone who's going through grief and loss. And there are things that we say that unfortunately, once you speak certain words, you can never take them back. And you realize, I mean, like, falling out in friendships is very easy during grief and loss, just because of the words that were said.
And when you're saying them, do you know you are saying them in a very good faith?
Yeah.
So imagine sometimes just go there and keep quiet. It's good. You are there. They are appreciating.
Yeah, just give the gift of presence.
Yeah, the gift of presence. So okay, I'm not saying that. I'm not like complaining or anything. I'm just saying that. You see, now I've gone through it,
yeah,
and I'm trying to advise people maybe what to do and what not to do. Yeah. So I don't know whether I've answered your question.
Yes. No. I think as you said, I think just that place of one, as a believer, just being careful with what you say around someone who's grieving, but also just being present, being fully present. And just through your story, some of the things that I've picked is also just through that journey, because I realized for you, the grieving started way before you even lost Simon. The grieving was just the questions that, you had to battle with, just the bitterness with God, the questions that you are asking yourself, am I the one who gave cancer to my son? And I believe that was still part of grieving, because I realized grieving, especially when you're caring for a sick individual, even prior to their death. There's just this whole journey of mourning and questioning and literally just going through the stages of grief, of denial, anger, like all those different stages, until at some point you'll get to the place of acceptance. But acceptance comes uko mbali.
Because they say that, you see, like now the way we have like a scar. A scar is not painful, but it's there.
Yeah.
I think that is how we can relate with
grief.
Yeah. It's not painful. You see, like now the changes that you are given. You see, now, like now this one, as long as I live, it's there.
Yeah. You can never take it away.
I never know to make now we dealt with it with my husband, and we were like, we're going to do it together. Let no one be left behind. But now the difference between him and I'm a bit talkative. So I used to go to a place, nanyamazisha watu, I tell them story from A to Z, and I feel
let it out.
Yeah, and someone was like, hey, you talk too much about that boy. Just tone down. I was like, hapana, weka utaki kusikiza, wacha nikambie mwingine. So I used to talk about it. But my husband was different.
Because we never talk about grief, especially for men.
For men, yeah.
Because for women, we are talkative. We have tukona chama. We have like 1,000,001 groups, support systems or support groups that allows us to navigate through grief. But what about the men?
Because like now, when we were going out through that, there's someone who posed, they were like, we all over Wangeshi. We are calling, but who is with John? So I remember some Pastor Alex. Pastor Alex was like, and Pastor MUNGAI and all those men pastors, they were holding him. Yeah. Because me, I had like friends who wanatoka church when I'm home, nasikia knock. wanakuja wako na unga ya ugali, wako na spinach, wako na avocado, we cook, we eat, we laugh, and we are not going to talk about Simon. He's there. We are not going. We just going to have our girl talk and everything.
Yeah.
So that was it. Yeah.
Wow.
That was the story. Yeah, and God blessed us with after in 2020 we were blessed with a baby girl called Joy, and last year we were blessed with another one called Shiro. So right now our house
your bundle is full.
Yeah. So I thank God for that.
He's a God who restores. But I know through the grieving period, you don't even think about restoration. You know, at that point,
Aki, you don't.
You're dealing with a loss, and it's in that moment. And I think the reality that I've come to appreciate as a human being, there's that reality of, as human beings, we are only short-sighted. We can't see the long, we can't see far. We don't know what God has planned. And I think sometimes we need to, as believers, we need to tell someone, it's okay. You know, yes, there's that theory, all things work together for good. But for now, it is not good. You know, so just tell someone, things are bad. But we'll hold on to hope. But let's deal with this reality, because we are short-sighted. Yes, God has better plans in the future, but unfortunately, in this moment of grief, we can't see those future plans. You know, so allow someone to go through the motions, to go through the emotions. You know, and be there and allow them to be. You know, allow them to go through anger, go through bitterness, which I think I was going to ask. You know, like, how did you navigate your relationship with God? Because I realize there's usually that tension through grief and loss, whereby we battle and wrestle with God in terms of, we contended for healing for this person, it never happened. So what's the situation? Are you still a healer, you know, or?
Yeah, that was the story.
Yeah.
Because first of all, okay, when us Christians, we sometimes feel like bad things cannot happen to us. Yeah.
We are immune. Because we have God, and yes, we stand God, on his word. Amen. He's a healer, he's a provider. He's my banner.
This is a situation, by the way, people prayed for Simon.
Yeah.
People prayed.
Yeah, I was one of them. I was one of them. So I was heavily affected the day that it was announced that unfortunately Simon had passed on. I personally, I was one of those people that I genuinely had to wrestle with God. I wasn't an immediate, immediate person affected, but just by virtue of being part of the community that wrestled with God, there's that place where you also begin asking God, so these prayers that you are making, God, like, what's happening? You know? Please explain to us, because now so many of us are affected by the loss.
So it was like, God, and you had to do it. And I personally, as a mom, I was not understanding.
Yeah.
Aje sasa? What is happening? Yeah, so it was very hard. And I took time. And you know what happened? I was an usher. And from that time, I told Pastor Jemima, I know Pastor Jemima what I want. And then they announced that there was opening a sensory.
Yeah.
Sensoria.
The sensory room to care for special needs children.
I had gone through it, and I was like, I want to start off another. I want to be part of that ministry. I want to be there for those children. I don't know, I'm not a teacher. I wouldn't like teach them anything, but I just want to hold them,
to care.
Love them. I want to care. I want to tell this parent that their worst case scenario, that yours is like not working, but I've buried mine. And it's something that is not reversible. And those parents, but they have spoken to several, and you are very good friends, because they feel like they are going through with their kids. But I'm like, you know what, people? Me, I've buried mine. How I wish angekuwa tu kwa wheelchair na msukuma, but namuona. But he's nowhere. I look at his age mates, and I'm like, angekuwa nato, because that's something that a parent battles with. Angekuwa natoshana huyu 2016 people. I'm like, you see. But God always, by the way, God, okay, now when I look at it from a distance,
in hindsight,
I say God that has a good plan. because he blessed me with Benjamin. Immediately. When I was going through all this, I had Benjamin. And who is my best friend is my... I have kids, but like him, he's like... He loves me, I love him, you know. So I think God did not want to leave me empty. Because you see now from 2018 to 2020 when I was getting this other girl, and the way I was so disappointed when carrying Benjamin, because like natoka maternity leave, na find out niko na mtoto kwa tumbo, you see. So it's those ones of oops.
Oops babies.
Yeah, so but God had a reason, and I came to say that akunanga, there is no oops baby, that one is cancelled, because that child you've been given by God. And when God was giving that these oops in quotes, he knew what was ahead, that he was going to take this other one.
Wow.
Wow.
So in hindsight, God has allowed you to just navigate and see that at the end of the day, his plans are good, as his word says.
His plans. The word of God is true. Yeah, and I came to realize there's a time that I was really battling during his sickness, and God dropped a word that is not a respecter of persons. That the same love he loves those children in the kindergarten who are jumping up and down there, it's the same God who loves my son. Yeah. And all through that story, may believe that he loved Simon. Even when he was suffering from cancer, God loved him. Yeah. Because he's not a respecter of person. He loves everybody equally. And his mercies. Yeah. Because I was telling God, me, I just want to flow, to survive in your mercy. Your mercies are new every morning. Renew, give me mercy, give me strength. Yeah. Because I realized that we formed like a support group, and I was like leading the rest. Even now, maybe when someone has gone through grief, I'm called. Hey, ongea na huyu mwambie. Yeah. By one of the doctors. Yeah. So somehow, Trisha, there's a reason why God had to put me through that fire.
Yeah, wow.
Because right now I can stand and look at a parent who is going through grief, who has a sick child, and I tell them that it's going to be well, that God got them. Because there's nothing hard like having a sick child, especially one who cannot express himself. You see, like now I have a daughter called Joy. Joy loves herself. Joy hata anaweza angalia kusema mami ona hapa natoka damu na kuna, so you see now her she's
yeah.
Ama kaya seme mami na ona damu and there's nothing, so you see now that one can be able to express herself. But tell me someone who has cancer, she has a very strong headache but cannot talk. So there's nothing hard like handling a sick child. Yeah.
Wow. You know, in the Bible, there's a verse that talks about, and after you've gone, through, I think it's the story where Jesus talks to Peter, and he tells him, even after you've gone through these things, encourage your brothers. Yeah. And I'm a firm believer that whatever trials we go through, whatever challenges we go through, whatever temptations we go through, they're bigger than just us.
Yeah,
There's the reason why God allows us to go through it, and the reality is he takes us through it. There's that verse in the popular verse in Psalm 23 that it says, even though I walk through the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, because you are with me. And the reality is we are walking through these situations, so there's hope at the end of the day. There's hope, because we're not built to stay in that darkness. It's a darkness that will come, but we will walk through it. And the reality is that God will see us through. I will fear no evil because God is with me, And so whether you are in that darkness right now, whether you are going through that season of grief and you are battling and you are asking God 1,000,001 questions, the reality is that even though you don't see it, even though you don't sense it, God is there. God is with you. And you will walk through that fire. You will walk through that darkness, and God will see you through.
Yeah. Because I remember before it happened, we had a season in church. We had a session in church. And we were being taught about seasons. And one thing about a season does not last. You see, like now there was that rainy season and you are so scared. It's raining, inabeba watu, inabeba everything. But it ended. So there's no season that is permanent. Even that parent who's going through a very difficult season, because you can understand about sickness when you are in a ward. Yeah, when you are sleeping in a hospital ward, that is when you understand what sickness is about. When you are looking at opposite child and you notice that, ameenda. That is now when you understand what it means to have a sick person. Yeah. So what I want to encourage everybody who's going through a season is that there's no season that is permanent.
Amen. Amen.
It's sunny right now, but in the evening it's going to be cold. It's going to be so cold, but tomorrow it's going to be sunny. There is no situation that is permanent.
Amen.
And in that situation, God is faithful and God is God.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
And what a way to land this conversation. I really do hope that you've taken out some nuggets from today's conversation and just learning, the importance of community. I think that's one of the things that I picked out from today's conversation in terms of just ensuring that you are already in a community right now, because when those dark seasons come, it's that community that will uphold you, that will be there for you. So just ensure that you are plugged into a godly community that can uphold you during those dark phases and dark seasons of life. But also, I love the fact that she mentioned there's no permanent season. Whatever challenge you are going through right now, whether it's in the sense of grief and whatever type of grief, because grief doesn't necessarily have to be a loss of a loved one, but whether it's grief, whether you're caring for a loved one, whether you are unwell yourself, whatever it is that you are battling, just be assured that there's no permanent season and that God will see you through. And ultimately, just knowing that even though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, that you can walk in confidence knowing that God is with you. And even when you don't see it, you don't sense it, just remember that God is with you and God will see you through, that you're not meant to sit in that darkness. You're meant to walk through it and get to the other side of light and rejoicing, because He is a God who turns our mourning into dancing, as Jackie shared. He's a God who restores. He's a God who sees us through those seasons, and He's a God who delights in doing good to us. And that is my prayer for anyone who could be going through a season of grief and loss. But also just remembering, as Christians, there's a way that we can care and be there to support those who are going through grief and loss, by just giving them the gift of our presence and allowing them to go through the motions, to go through the emotions, to go through the different stages of grief, and just being there to support them, and not necessarily speaking too many words, but just being there for them. But that's it for today's conversation. Remember to subscribe to this channel if you haven't, but also remember to share this episode with somebody else so that they too can get to be encouraged, they can get to be inspired by today's conversation. Thank you so much, and looking forward to seeing you in our next episode. Goodbye.